Hello, everyone. You are joining with Advocata Studio. As you know, we are going to discuss about topics that is relevant to Sri Lanka's economy, and we are also going to discuss in detail about the economic reform process. And if you are following Advocata Institute and Advocata Plus, you are no stranger that we have been focusing about the land matter, because on an economic point of view, there are something called factor markers. Land, labor and capital are the main factors of the economy, and Sri Lanka is having a history about land disputes. In case if you are in the middle of a land conflict, claiming on a land with your neighbor or something in that sort, you know how difficult it is to get it resolved through Sri Lanka's court proceedings. So with that, we would like to welcome Professor Ranjit Premalal De Silva. He's a senior professor at University of Peradeniya at the Department of Agriculture and Engineering. Professor Premalal, welcome to Advocata Studio, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Professor Premalal, first wanted to understand, I'm sure if this land matter is everyone's problem. Some are happy that they have the deeds, some are happy that they have secured, but from the statistics, from what I read, about 80% of the land is owned by the government. And there's a deed system, there's Bimsaviya, there's Swarna Bhumi, there's Jaya Bhumi. For someone who hasn't studied the subject, it seems a little complicated. Can you unpack a bit on what has happened and to bring it to date, up to date on what was the history a bit, and where are we now, and what is, can you clear the dust first of all for us to move forward?
Okay, thank you. And this is a very timely issue that you have focused of the land. And if you look at the issues what we have at our hand today, these issues have a long history. If you look at earlier period, like we started in 1850, when the British conquered the country, and 1840s they declare that land belongs to the British Empire. It's called Crown Lands. And after, just before the independence, as I remember, it's somewhere 1930s, they introduced the land ordinance, which claim the land for which people don't have clear titles or ownerships, all the lands belong to the government. So, and then they had looked at the encroachments and then tried to avoid the encroachments. People occupying the land illegally was somewhat prevented by law. And then we had this land title registration system starting somewhere in 1930s.
Professor Premalal, you spoke about the Crown Land, the land ordinance and the land registration system in 1930s. Can you elaborate a little bit more? How was the process? And you mentioned for a couple of reasons, this British style land regulation was not appropriate to Sri Lanka. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the reasoning?
In fact, it's not suitable for Sri Lanka, because when they started in 1930s, that was a fairly good system.
Right.
But with time, with the other developments, there were certain issues connected with the land ownerships.
Right.
This land registry procedure is totally a manual process.
Right.
And
before that, Professor, so still the land ordinance and the land registration system are enacted, it's effective, is it? Or has there been changes, or did I jump the gun? Are you coming to that?
Yeah, I just about to come
Okay,
into
fine.
that.
Go ahead. Please continue.
So the British system, where the surveying was done in United Kingdom by the Ordnance Survey of UK, they had a perfect system of land registration. So we adapted more or less the same system, but there were certain issues with our land ownerships. We have customary rights, we have different societal ownerships of the land. So common ownership was not basically, common ownership is not belong to the government, but belong to a group of people in the society. So these things were not really recognized in the system. And also we had the ownership, customary land ownership coming from generation to generation, and then without having proper registered land titles. So with the time, people realize, even now we have experienced this, we have a problem, series of problems, because we don't have a complete digital land registry, or we call it technically, we don't have a cadastre. Cadastre is inventory of land. So it's basically digital inventory of land is a prerequisite in today's era, because we need to verify the information. We need to be able to update the information immediately and be visible, the updated information, to the other people. Now the problem with the land registry is the traditional system of land titles leads to people to have multiple deeds for the same land. There's no proper process for verification, and they can have fraudulent claims on the land. And then on the other hand, you can have, so for the same land, you can have multiple ownerships, multiple titles, and you have to look at how the ownership was transferred with time, chronological order of ownership. Then if the land owner has not sold his land, then it belongs to him. Subsequent ownerships are not valid. And also, there is no proper way of partitioning the land. There are regulations about how a land can be partitioned, and then if it is a area under the governing mechanism of urban development authority, there are certain rules. You need, if you are partitioning or if you are dividing land for small plots, then you need to have access roads. The sizes of the access roads are defined. So all these regulations need to be maintained, but with the traditional system of land registry, it is very difficult to maintain this. So people always find difficulties. And not only that, when it comes to the identification of boundaries, we still use the traditional surveying methods. And although there are accepted level of accuracies in surveying measurements, because all these are surveys who got the license, but there are still certain issues, inaccuracies exist with the deeds and how you have prepared the plan of the land. So these issues created the background for the especially survey department together with the land ministry to look for a proper way of managing the land in a digital environment.
Professor Premala, I want to unpack a few things that you mentioned. So, okay, we had the Crown land, and then we had the land ordinance, and then we had the land title registration system starting from 1930. So, and then though that means, imagine if I had a land, okay, let's discuss the customary land separately, but imagine if I had a land, so the way that I could prove that I own it is that land has to be registered at the land registry as per the 1930s land registration system, title registration system. And then where this access road and identifying boundaries, is it come also from that land title registration system or the land ordinance, or is it adopted later? First, let's clarify that.
Yeah, there are various government institutions who are responsible for different activities on land.
Right.
And depending on the geographic location of the land, whether it is located in an urban area, municipal council, provincial council area, there are different regulations.
Right.
And there are other organizations like the Central Environmental Authority and Mining Bureau. They have also have some kind of mandate to operate on certain lands.
Right.
So you cannot really summarize everything and give it to the land commissioner's department or land title registration department. It's a number of institutions jointly claiming the responsibility for various components on the land at different levels.
Just to clarify, so for an example, if it's an archaeological land, basically that can override some of the other institutions and it has to work hand in hand, or they have a way of defining it. Is that what you mean to say?
Yeah, how the law has been enacted shows us how a different organization has the priority in making decisions on the land.
Right.
So basically, if it is an archaeological site, they have the priority, and other people cannot go and make any activity on the land without the permission from the Department of Archaeology. Like if it is something to do with if we are going to have activity related to some impact on the environment, then Central Environmental Authority comes in. They have the mandate to impose a mandatory requirement of EIA for those activities which have been defined by the Act. So we
Same
have
as if it's something regarding mining, it's some under your ground, and then the
Geological Survey and Mines Bureau intervene, and they have to issue the license because it is under their mandate. And if it is related to, if it is in the coastal area, Coast Conservation Department, which has the first the environmental concerns, they have the authority. So different institutions come in, they have different regulations, laws enacted on the land. But when we look at it, we have to look at comprehensively to understand. It depends on the location, geographic location, then the administrative level which it operates, and activity that we are going to have on the land, what kind of the size of the land, all these things matter when it comes to decision making.
Got it. And then on these titles and when you mentioned about titles and the boundaries, so when you say titles, do you mean to say the deed, or because we have also heard Bimsaviya and Jayabhumi and Swarnabhumi? And what does it mean? Can you explain like what is a Jayabhumi, a Swarnabhumi, and what do you mean by a title and a deed, and what is the difference of these things?
Well, when it comes to ownership of land, there are two things that you need to have. One is identification of boundary of the land.
Right.
And that has to be done by a licensed surveyor in a survey plan. So you have to have the plan, which should be numbered. And then, together with the plan, the ownership should be registered. So deed should be written with reference to the plan of the land according to the license survey identification. So that these two documents, deed and the plan, should go together for the registration.
Right.
And then when it comes to the registration of land, they maintain the history of land ownership. So you can go back and trace the ownership history. And whenever you record a new transaction which transfer the ownership, that should be recorded in the land registry. As I mentioned earlier, there are a number of issues with this. So realizing that somewhere in 1997, Australian government came forward. They had a very good land registration system, digital land registration system. They call it torrent system. So they wanted to support us. What they did was they invited government officials who are involved in this for a session in Western Australia to familiarize with this new system, what they have. So our survey department and land commissioners department, land ministry, a group of responsible people went and had a kind of exposure visit. And then parallel to that, somewhere in 1998, the government introduced this new land title registration ordinance, or act actually, it's act. Right. As I remember, it's number 21 of 1998. That introduced number of measures to secure the ownership, to have a clear titles for the land, and with that, with these powers vested to the land title registration department, they started the Bimsaviya program. Okay. That's how Bimsaviya started.
Very, very quick intervention. Can you also explain what's the difference between the deed and the title? You explained the deed. You mentioned it's like a registry that you go and write in that book. And you were explaining the challenges of it, but also since you use the word title, could you also explain what does it mean?
It can be used synonymously, but deed is actually a complete document giving details of the boundaries in words, identifying boundaries, and with reference to the survey plan.
Right.
And the registration of it in the registry is called title registration.
Right.
So that, like you have land, that your ownership need to be registered. That's called title registration.
Title registration. Basically, you have a document saying that this is the boundaries of the land, written in words, saying this road is one boundary, the other side, this tree or something is another boundary, and then it was given, and then
with the plan.
With the very important.
So graphical illustration is also there.
Graphical illustration is also there, which has to be done by a licensed surveyor. And both together has to be at the land registration system. And that where you can trace the ownership.
Yeah, the issue is when you have these documents, you can't keep these documents in a book.
Right.
So in the book, what you enter is with reference to those documents, you enter the details. So that's the title registration book. So we have basically, when you have a document, if you don't want to read the entire document, you can understand what it is by looking at the title.
Correct.
So this is kind of thing. So you have the title. So it indicates, he is the owner, and this is when it was registered, and it refers to the documents which are relevant to this.
Okay. Just to simplify it for our audience, this means like a letter registry. Someone receives a letter, and you open the letter, there's a title, and you register, say this is the title of the letter, this is for the person that you have received the letter, this is the date that you received the letter, and probably a note on like what is it all about. Did I explain it right?
Okay. Actually, now in a office, we have an inward register and outward register, so which records the letter, and then here the issue is we have the deed number.
Right.
Which is issued by a particular and according to an order. So that is also registered. So you have a deed with a number, and you have a plan with a number.
So the survey general, the chartered surveyor or like the licensed surveyor, they will have a number for that particular plan, which will also in the registry, so as the sequential number of the deed, so someone can go back and refer to that deed and the survey, like the survey plan. Yeah. Okay, got it. So what's the title? Is it the same or different?
Yeah, title is what you entered in the registry.
Title is what you entered in the registry. Okay, got it. So then you explained about Australians coming, the Torrent system, and on this titling system with Bimsaviya in 1998. So what is the difference? So you have the title which is registered in that book. Now, what is the difference? What the Australians brought in, or what we were trying to do with Bimsaviya?
With Bimsaviya, we want to resolve some of the issues we had with the title registration. Mm-hmm. What we want to have is a kind of a total digital system where the boundaries actually a map is registered with the details of the owner. If there are any conflicts about the ownership, which was the issues were resolved before you enter the data into Bimsaviya. So, and then rather than having a deed which was written by a notary public or a lawyer, Bimsaviya issues you a title certificate.
Right.
And which can be updated, and the updation immediately goes into the system.
Right.
So if anybody wants to check the system, they can get the updated information.
Right. And so that means there'll be no disputes, because whether if it's updated in the system, that is there, and you can get in your certificate that it can be updated, so you have a reference and it's already in the system.
And it's a more transparent system, because now, even now, if you don't look at the Bimsaviya program, which has not been implemented properly, if you go for title registration, if you want to buy a land, and then you need to find somebody who can go to the land registry and verify the information. After the verification also, there's a time between the verification and the purchasing the land. During that period, somebody can change the ownership in the land registry, and then you are buying a land from somebody, but it is not owned by the person at the time of purchasing. So these issues can be resolved when you have the digital system, where now most of the government institutions introduce digital verification systems. So that's the advantage of having records in digital form, because you can share it, but you can't modify it. Okay. Anybody can have access to it, because it's public information. So this information should remain in the public domain. So people can have access, look at it. Now, if you want to buy a motor vehicle, now you can go and verify the ownership from the RMV website. So that's the information which should remain with the public, because this information is useful for the public when they make decisions. Land registration is also a similar thing. So when we want to buy the land, you don't need to go behind the lawyer to asking him to go and check the title registry, because, and then even if you go there, you have to find somebody to help you. It's not easy to go and retrieve the records. But if you have a digital system, it can be accessed by, because it doesn't need to be kept confidential. Sorry. It should be open. Now, with opening up of assets of people in Sri Lanka, so you can see now, if somebody declares that I own this land, you can see whether that land is owned by this person.
If the process has been done.
Done, yeah. If the person has not declared something, you can go and put the name and verify who. In other countries, you can give the name, but if you go to US or UK, even Australia, people have very short names. So same name, there are thousands of people. But with the right identification, you can see all the lands owned by this particular person.
Got it. Okay, now let's come to the more important questions. So now on the Bimsaviya, so what you say is it's like a website. Now you can join Advocata. I mean, you can browse Advocata website, but you cannot edit our website. You can see, certain documents are downloadable, but you cannot edit anything. Same way, you mean that people can log into people can view the land system on digital form, but you cannot edit it. So under Bimsaviya now, is it who manages that system, number one, and is it accessible for the public?
Not yet.
Okay.
Actually, now if it is a open access system, and different people have different level of access. Some people only can read the information, some people can download, some people can enter, some people can modify other records. Like there are different levels of access. But here, since this has not been launched properly and comprehensively, we don't have that facility.
Right.
But the aim was to provide that facility for the public.
Right. So now where is it, like from the little information that we have is there are about 16 million land plots. I think under Bimsaviya they have done about 1 million. So do you think with your knowledge this has been entered to that torrent system? Is it there? Is it in that right form and people have received Bimsaviya certificates in certain cases. At the same time, there are complaints about the system, which we will come to in the latter part. But where is it at the moment? Is it in that proper structure, or whether I have also heard that the torrent system is outdated? That's one of the problems, that it is not moving forward. Where is it at the moment?
I think it's not the torrent system as it is what we have implemented here.
Okay.
But with my personal experience, I can see that this Bimsaviya is not performing the way it was expected to perform.
Right.
Now, if I tell you my personal experience, I have a piece of land, Peradiniya. It was surveyed under Bimsaviya, and I was asked to come to this regional office to verify. I went there, but there's nobody interested in taking that information, so I can't be going, every day like getting this done. So I just gave it up, and I never received any title certificate or the Bimsaviya land title certificate, and I don't know what has happened after that. So I just inquired about it from the neighbors. But the process was good. How they came and they inspected the land, access roads, common areas. For example, my father-in-law gave a small piece of land for common use for the village people. So that was kept separately, and they demarcated it, identified it separately, and identified nobody can now encroach it because it's a common land. So likewise, there are good side of it, but to get the benefit properly for the public, it needs to be implemented the way it was expected to work. So now, unfortunately, it doesn't work.
Right. So now I know people get confused. Okay, now some people who are watching may have a deed, some may have a Bimsaviya, some may want to make it a Bimsaviya. Do you have any thoughts like how can we make it to Bimsaviya, or is it necessary, or since the process is slow, whether you really do not have a choice? What is your advice for someone who is watching this?
Yeah, in fact, our system of governance, when we have different governments coming to power, people don't want to continue under the same name.
Right.
So whether it is Bimsaviya or any other name, what we need to have for the country is land information system. A comprehensive land information system where each and every land parcel information is recorded, boundaries are defined digitally, and then that information as an information system should be made available to the public. Now, that along this line, there are a couple of initiatives from the survey department and the land title registration department. So, survey department, there was a Swiss government-funded supported project that also improved the capacity of the survey department considerably in handling this cadastral information. In addition to that, there was another project supported by, it's mostly on a geographical information system mapping project by the French government, which was introduced during President Chandrika Kumaratunga's time. And there are a lot of administrative issues that had to be sorted out. So as a pilot study, Attanagalla DS division, it was started, and the French team came here, work very hard. I was also had a number of discussions with them. At that time, I was the president of the Geoinformatics Society of Sri Lanka. So they introduce a high resolution land information system, so you can scale it up and scale it down as you wish, and detailed information is entered about the ownership and the boundaries, and then in addition to that, there were a lot of other attributes about the land which had been entered into the system. So if we can introduce that system or have the system for the entire country, I think that makes the land management, not only for the title registration, but entire land management, because as I told you earlier, there are a number of institutions which are mandated to work on land. So everybody can work without any restrictions if we can have that kind of a complete digital land information system. And Canada, we have complete land information system. That's where this concept of land information system started in 1960s. So when we have this kind of a system, it facilitated the best use of the land. When it comes to agricultural land, you can select which land is used for and what is the best use of the land. If it is industrial land, you can see how it is used, where it is used, who used it. And if it is other community use land or any other common properties, you can see the use, whether and this property is being used properly, and all that information, all this attribute information you can feed into the system. So that will help to expand the information base, and then it will help the proper management of land.
So just want to understand, so do you mean to say this French system, and that there are multiple land information system, is better than Bimsaviya, and is there a way that we can adapt, or that means do we have to scrap everything and convert, or or measure, because already we have spent time measuring, or going through the process of Bimsaviya for about 1 million land passes as per the public information. So how does it happen? All these can be complementing each other and the system can be upgraded to the same level, and what additional features that the new system that you propose, or you just spoke, would contain?
The Bimsaviya programs are only aimed at providing land titles or registration. It's basically it came from the Land Title Registration Department. So its mandate is to ensure that people have clear titles, ownership to the land. But when it comes to a land information system, there are many uses of it.
Right.
So, for example, not only now we are looking only at the horizontal dimension, look at the land in the 2D view. We need to look at the land in 3-dimensionally, especially when it comes to urban areas. Now, there are restrictions. Now, for example, if you look at the immediate vicinity of the airport, there are certain restrictions. When you go away from the airport, that restrictions get controlled step by step. Now, if we are within a certain 100, 200 meters from the airport, there are strict restrictions on the height of the buildings. Same with the urban areas. Now, urban area, there are limits where you can have the number of floors, and there are restrictions on the height of each floor and number of floors you can have. And also, you have a limitation on the size of the land where you can have a construction.
Correct. I'm sure people are aware that if you are in the urban area, at least, people shoot different numbers. You need 5 perch or 6 perch to build a house, and yes.
So it's very difficult to control this process manually.
Right.
Now, in addition to that, say for example, the municipal council decides to impose a property tax. The government has been talking about this quite for a while.
Yeah.
And I also heard that His Excellency the President declared that there won't be any new taxes from this budget. But there has been discussions on the property tax.
It has also in the IMF governance diagnostic report as well. Yes.
Then, when it comes to property tax, you should be able to tax not only on the 2-dimensional picture, size of the land, but a kind of building that you have put on this land.
Right.
So number of floors, so it's a vertical space also should be counted. So without having a complete database. Now when it comes to construction, people get permission for 10-story building, but ended up with 12-story building. There are regulations, but you have to physically go and verify it. You can't stop while it is being constructed.
Right.
So if you have 3D management system, where now there is a technology, LiDAR technology, you can go for three-dimensional mapping. And developed countries like especially UK, they monitor. Each and every land parcel is monitored periodically to ensure that you are having compliance with the regulations and you do not have anything outside the permitted level. So we can monitor. We can monitor the size of the land parcels, whether the permission can be granted, what kind of building you are putting up. So that everything can be controlled. So you don't have to wait somebody send a petition to go and inspect the land. You can monitor. And also there are certain level of access requirements. Now these requirements are becoming very serious because we need to provide access. When it comes to building, we need to provide access. If it's a public building and access to the public, you need to have access requirements for the differently able people. So these things can be governed, and everything now coming back to this property tax. If the government wants to, or municipal council want to introduce a property tax, how do you do it? You have to value the land. Now, to value the land, you need to look at the certain attributes like distance from the road, market value of that area, and then type of building you have, type of like construction, roofing material, everything you need to consider. And then if you do a survey once, so if you can send people to do the survey and then go to each and every household, each and every building, collect the information and come back. And then you want to introduce this. Suddenly you realize that you want to have one more attribute in this. So you have to send the people again to the field, right? But now if you have the data in a database, it's just a matter of finding that information from the table. So it's like if you want to decide the price of the property tax based on the market value and other attributes, what you need to do is only you need to define that as an equation, and then you get the property tax calculated for each and every property of that area. You can decide where you want to have tax. Say, for example, from the city center or Colombo, it's a 2-kilometer radius or 5-kilometer radius. Just a matter of giving that, and then you get all the data retrieved, and you have all the information of the landowners, proper owners of the land. You can prepare one common letter, put it to the database, get the letters printed, or even digitally you can transfer this to the people. So it's very easy. Management is very easy.
Got it. Now I have a technological question. How do you actually do it? Because from what I gathered was, this is not a manual process, measuring the height of the building, the height of the floor and all that. So is it involve satellite technology, or how does it actually happen?
There are different technologies.
This is your area. This is your engineering side come to play.
Different technologies available, and a kind of 3D mapping you need. You can have now most of the urban areas, there are restrictions because there are limitations of sizes and all that. So what you need is develop a proper 3-dimensional profile of the area. So that there are technologies like most of the countries use the LiDAR technology. And also you can use high resolution satellite imagery as well. Now with the drone technology, you can even, if you want to have a controlled like development in the area, you can have a drone mission to collect the required data. And then it's a matter of analyzing this data, and the AI methods will provide us very sound platforms to get multiple data sources and then come up with the information required for decision making. So that's not a big deal, but only thing is you have to have a concept, motivation, procedure, and the implementation plan. Then you can go ahead and do it. You don't need to do it for the entire country at once. You can gradually build it, but this should be the method that you introduce for one area should be capable of combining, because you don't need to have one scale. That's the advantage of geographical information system. You can have multiple scales. You can look at the information at very detailed scale, like survey department. For the urban areas, they have developed 1 to 2000 level digital maps. 2000 is a very detailed scale. And if you go outside, like peri-urban areas, they have about 5,000 scale. And for the entire country, they have 10,000 scale maps. So you can go for different scales and changing the scale and looking at different characteristics of the land or in the area. It's not a problem with the information system. So GIS has that capability.
So what would, if we were to implement that, so the already the Bimsaviya titles that has also to be like absorbed, because as you said, it's a more a two-dimensional one, because already some level of information is there. Because from what I understood, this is more a drone one, but at the same time, someone has to enter the data by verifying this land is owned by you, this is your boundary, it has to be synced with the digital system. At the same time, ideally in the first phase, a surveyor has to go and basically get the demarcation or like the boundary and measure it. Am I understanding it right? How does it work?
Yeah, there's certain components that you need to do physically.
Right.
But the advantage of this system is you need to verify it only once. And you can use it many times, update it number of times. That's the advantage. And now the information collection can even be done digitally, remotely, because people have access to smartphones. It's a matter of administering small information collection system where people who are interested can come and contribute. So if you want to claim your land ownership, then you need to come and give your details. You can give a copy of your title and like take a photo and give that to him. So you don't need to do physically most of the things. Technologies are available to do it remotely. Even if you are not in Sri Lanka, you can still, otherwise you cannot do it. If you have a land here, you are abroad and you cannot get the ownership. But still, now there are methods that you can do. So what I see is Bimsaviya as a program, since it started, it has gone a long way, and we have invested a fairly large amount of resources on that. We can continue and have this Sri Lanka land title settlement. It's called land title settlement work without any interruption. It should go ahead. But then a complete land information system can be developed, taking the inputs from the Bimsaviya as well as input from other sources, which will allow us to manage lands properly and to identify the lands. For example, if investors ask the government to provide lands with these kind of attributes, like it need to be within certain kilometers from the known airport, it has to be there should be a labor availability, it should not be having these close to a culturally important site, because people can so we can look at the land available. Once you define the criteria, an information system will provide you all the land within the country which satisfy your criteria. So you don't need to send surveys, you don't need to go to the field people to go and evaluate the situation. You can do it from the desk. So what you need is to have a complete digital system, because we move into a digital system and we have a lot of new technologies developed. AI cannot be used if you don't have data in digital form. So it's a matter of getting things into digital form, which will facilitate not only the land management, most of the other, like when it comes to inland revenue, collecting revenues, that will help. So all the other associated activities can also be supported if we have a proper system.
So basically, from what I gathered, when you have this land information system, I'm sure most of the people who are watching this program are conversant with this new AI tools like ChatGPT. So you give a prompt, like the same way, if you have all the system ready, one thing is you can check any person whether they own the land and whether actually their declared details are in line with even the IRD department, or in fact, if you're searching, I'm sure most of us are searching for vehicles to buy houses, rent houses. The same way, you can do the same search option on an AI platform on the same land information system, and should be, if you're looking for a waterfront land, it should be available. If you're looking for a flat land for a solar project, that should be available. If you're looking for, depending on your requirement, property, a commercial.
Can I give you an example?
Yes.
Now, when it comes to real estate business, now if you want to buy a land here, or if you want to buy a house, and you go to a real estate agent, and then you give the criteria. Okay, this is my budget, and this kind of facilities I need in house. So you define the size of the plot. I need minimum 10 perch land. I need at least 2-story building with 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a fence around or wall around the house, and all your requirements are defined. Then what he does is he'll give you all the properties, and then you spend days and days visiting properties, but then you find your requirements are not satisfied. If you go to UK or developed country, most of the countries, they have entire details of, if you want to sell a property, they record all the details of the property, location, all the who owns it, your contact details, what is the size of the plot, whether you have a road front, whether you have number of floors you have in the building, when it was built, what is the roofing material, what is the building material used, what kind of floor you have, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, when it was renovated. All this information is collected and recorded in the database. So when you want to buy a land, when you go to real estate agent, he will ask you to digitally fill your requirements. You give all your requirements because they have identified the fields, like you can say number of bedrooms you want, minimum 3, number of bathrooms you want to have, square footage that you want to have, what kind of neighborhood you want to have, all that you can define. Then they will tell you, give you a digital map, okay, when are you free to visit? Next Sunday. If you are free to visit next Sunday, go to this place, this is the location, this is the road map, and you will have appointment with the owner. You can go and look at the property at 9 o'clock, and then you look at the property, leave that place at 9:45, or take the route, go to the next property. The owner will be there at 10:15. You can look at the property. So 3 or 4 properties, all the properties satisfy your requirements. So it's a matter of just choosing one of them. It's quite easy. But here, since we don't have the system, people suffer.
Got it. So what is the investment looks like for implementing? I know you mentioned it, we can do it like phase wise, but overall, how much, like in monetary terms, do you have an indication?
Well, I don't have an exact estimate of how much it costs, because you cannot really say taking a particular application in isolation. Now, for example, but you can compare it. If you look at the amount of resources and the expenditure to do it manually continuously, because you have to make that expenditure continuously.
Yeah.
So here you do it once and use it many times. That's your advantage. And also, when the entire country is moving towards the digital era, every institution, every activity has a digital face. So then you don't need to do everything in this land information system. You can get things what others are doing. It's a very complementary system when it comes to digital. So you don't need to, say for example, identification of land, you can do from satellite imagery, which has been done for some other work. So it's a kind of, when you have the data in digital form, you don't need to repeat the same exercise. So it's a very complementary process when you move towards a particular goal, which is the total digitalization of the processes and management. You get a lot of complementary support from other areas. Like now, same with the technology. The technology that we use in geoinformation are not the technologies that have been developed for geoinformation management. These are borrowed from some other fields. Best example is the global positioning systems. Mm-hmm. The global positioning systems.
What is global positioning systems?
It's a positioning system that we use in the land management as well, surveying, managing lands, and all the other requirements for location assessments, even for navigation. Now, global positioning systems started as they started developing this system as a military application after Second World War. So they wanted to reach the locations, targets with precise numbers so that they will not make mistakes. So what happened was, you cannot see things on the land, so you have to go up to see the territory of the enemy. So what they did was, they thought they would go to the space and try to develop a simple mechanism of the idea of getting this location data. I'm moving into technical area. It's called triangulation. It's a very simple method. We have 3 satellites, and then it make a distance measurement. And actually, the distance is measured from the signal from the satellite to receive by the receiver. So if you take the time, you know the speed of the signal, the speed of light, you can get the distance. So by calculating the distance from 3 satellite measurements, you can precisely give the location. Now this technology, although it started for military applications to destroy the mankind, now there are thousands of applications which benefit the humans, which benefit the mankind. And even if you monitor large dams, like there are a number of large dams in China. So when the water is filled in the reservoir, the dam has a small movement, sometimes few millimeters, a few centimeter movement of the dam, that can be monitored from the GPS technology, global positioning system technology. So if there is any chance of dam failure, you can monitor and record it. So how the dam is moving with the pressure, water pressure. So that level of accuracy you can get from this system. And the land information systems, we use this global positioning data heavily. I'm sure everybody is using GPS technology now. If you want to go from one place now, even to locate your place today, I use the GPS technology. So it started as, it's commonly called GNSS, Global Navigation Satellite Systems. And then we have a US system called GPS, Russian system called GLONASS, and European system we have Galileo system, and the Chinese we have another system, China. So globally now we can make use of this technology in company. It is immaterial whether it's developed by China or Russia or US. We can have our smartphones enabling this all different methods to calculate our location. So we get a precise location. So that technology didn't start from this thing. It came from the military side. So there are lots of developments which we get the support from. Same with the land information system. You don't need to have each and everything explored, innovated and adapted. You have the technology available.
Excellent. So this question will be mainly for our subscribers who are supporting the Advocata Insider program. So there was a conversation about MCC, if you recall, again a land information system. Was it the same or was it different, like, the system that they have proposed, or is it completely different? Any thoughts on that? And coming back to our normal conversation from the Advocata Insider conversation, so do you happen to say that with this drone technology and with this new applications and technology, how long do you think, like, again, I know depending on the data layers you basically explain, but if we actually have the finances, given the size of Sri Lanka, 65,000 approximately square kilometers, how long would it take to map it? Okay, you can maybe once you have it on the map, is there a way that you can go process wise, like you prioritize maybe the urban areas to do first and move forward? Like how long will it take it to map it basically with the technology?
Well, it depends on the purpose, but generally mapping using satellite data is fairly fast.
Right.
And now, unfortunately, if you look at our agricultural statistics, we don't know how much area we have cultivated paddy, being the staple food. We don't know the area we cultivated, and then there are people blaming each other from different government institutions. One say one thing, other person says something else. We don't have any clear statistics.
And in fact, it's also manual. You're going and asking people and just writing it.
There are lots of issues with the way we collect data.
Yeah.
Now, if you go and ask the agriculture officer responsible or agriculture instructor responsible for a certain area, he wants to say that my area is fairly performing well. So you don't have any issue. So he gives statistics, everything is good. I have cultivated the entire area, yield is good. And then you take the statistics, combine, and then you will see that it's okay, we don't have a problem of paddy in Sri Lanka. Now, but when you really look at paddy cultivation, we have a shortage every year. Now, I know very well, being the director of Hector Kobbakadu Agrarians in 2011, it's only in 2011 we reached the self-sufficiency in rice in Sri Lanka. I don't know about the ancient kingdoms where we had the self-sufficiency, but in the recent past, it's only in the year 2011 we had, immediately after the war, we had self-sufficiency in rice in Sri Lanka. After that, we lost. 2012, we did not have that. So we don't have the proper statistics, and the satellite data can help us to monitor, because what we need to monitor is the same land again and again. So when it comes to repetitive task, the digital data provides the good platform. You don't have to do most of the things again. Once you develop the algorithm to classify the land, even you can identify the type of paddy variety you cultivate. Right? Once you develop the algorithm, it's a matter of just putting the satellite data set, and then you get the output. You don't need to have much process, because you define the process once, you use the same process. So these statistics, if you use the satellite technology, you can get it. Likewise, if level of adoption of technology, I don't know, but land registration, within couple of years, I think you can get a fair amount of digital work being recorded without any problem. If you want to have the the real intention to perform it successfully, and devotion, and joining all the government institutions responsible for this on one platform, you can do it within very short time.
Okay. Also wanted to pick your brain on how do we resolve the existing issues? Like, let's say we are moving to a new land management system. Hopefully, maybe let's assume that the president is going to allocate more funds to a new land management system, so on and so forth. But already, even people who receive Bimsaviya, even we wrote an article to newspapers last week, and we have been on media explaining about it. People complain already. For an example, I received a call that they have a waterfront property which the bank has extended a loan by checking the deeds. But when it comes to Bimsaviya, when you measure it, they say now the river was supposed to go behind your house. So basically, you pretty much lose everything that you have. So there are issues like that, or disputes. Like, how do you basically resolve this? What is the mechanism, or is there a globally best practices that we can do? How do you because anyway, whether it's a land management system or a land information system or a Bimsaviya or something, still there will be ways to resolve it. How do you do it actually?
Yeah, and coming back to a specific point, river also moves. It's not something static, right? It's moving. So depending on the flow rate, depending on the kind of sediment loads and things, it can, especially when it is river is not flowing straight, meandering rivers are diverting from one place to another within very short period. It's not, you don't have to go to geologic time to look at the changes. So it's changing. Now, when it comes to this Bimsaviya, I think we have the general practice of starting something and leaving it without completing it. So I think as practice, Bimsaviya need to be completed. Because there are specific objectives that have been set, and these objectives should be achieved. But then if you want to have a more comprehensive land management system or land information system, you can go in, you can take the Bimsaviya input without any problem. But I think since we have invested heavily on Bimsaviya, not only the technology, human resource, and also the general public has spent a lot of time on this. Like, I know I personally spend a lot of time getting my title cleared. So we need to complete it. And then parallelly, we can start a complete land information system which will have multiple benefits.
Got it. And in terms of a very important point on that particular the river issue. So how do you actually, okay, if you have the satellite, the land information system, then it's fine. At least you can, you have evidence that this river moved on a shorter period of time. But I'm sure on Bimsaviya, probably most likely the chartered surveyors or the licensed surveyors, they must be using a surveyor map which was coming from like multiple years where the river may have been marked, because probably by the time this area, because this is your area, now things have changed. So how do you resolve? Because generally these waterfront properties are also owned by fairly, people who have the purchasing power. and those are very valuable properties commercially and otherwise. So how do you resolve something in that sort under that Bimsaviya? Because now someone comes and say, okay, according to Bimsaviya, you really do not, you don't supposed to have your property here. So what's the legal way or like the technical way to resolve it?
Yeah, in fact, the digital system will allow you to modify things,
Right.
change things.
Right.
And Bimsaviya will have component of physical inspection.
Right.
So if we have a plan or a deed related to certain area, and if things have changed, Bimsaviya can record that.
Right.
And update the information. Bimsaviya is not just to confirm the information which is already there.
Right.
It can generate new information. Like especially there are certain, especially we have a river. You have a river reservation. That reservation, it's not a new concept.
Correct.
Even for the coast, we have a reservation. Coast Conservation Department had the mandate only in that reserved area. River is also, every river, every natural water course has got its reservation in both sides. And if it is sea, we define from the tidal level, but in this river, we define from the center of the river a certain distance. So there's a provision. What happens is people encroach this area, now they have deeds. And in the same with the roadsides, every road has a certain reserved area. So that's for expansion, certain other activities, and then the supply lines going in the roads. So the problem in this country is we never had any proper infrastructure for any field. Now, if you look at road infrastructure, now we have at least now settled to a certain level, international standard level infrastructure. People think building a road is just enough. No. Building a road doesn't serve any purpose, because what is the purpose of a road? We need to be able to travel on that road securely, safely to our destination. But if we don't have proper road infrastructure, which includes road signs, speed limits, pedestrian crossings, information signboards, we cannot use the road. Now, if I don't know whether you can remember, before 1990, we had roads, but we never had any road sign posted. And whenever you want to go and come to a junction, we didn't have a Google Maps at that time. So whenever you want to go somewhere, you have to stop the vehicle and ask somebody, where is the turn, this side or this side? You have to ask the question, right? But now, every junction, before that there is a signboard saying that this goes to this side, this road is there. So now you have Google Maps, you can find it. But the signposting is also an important component. The pedestrian crossing. Right? If there is no pedestrian crossing, how can people cross the road? People cross and then get meet with an accident. So everything, road infrastructure is a complete package which enables people to use the roads safely. Now look at the electricity infrastructure in Sri Lanka. Now if somebody comes to Sri Lanka, ask a friend of mine, actually this happened some time back, he asked me, what kind of power socket you have? Do you have answer? You don't have some areas, round pin, square pin, 2 pin, everything we have here in Sri Lanka. Right? So how do you answer that question? We don't have a national policy of defining our proper electricity infrastructure. We define the electricity, this is 50 hertz, 230, but other than that, we don't have a complete infrastructure. So now at least we have standards, square pin plugs, 3 pin square plugs, right? And then the colors of the wires. Do we follow the standards? No. So you have to test and see whether it is positive or neutral. We don't use proper color codes. So since we don't have proper infrastructure for anything, unfortunately, people find it very difficult to get the best use of their lives. Lives are not safe. They can't enjoy. They can't get the best out of what nature can offer you, because we are not prepared to get everything. So what we need from the digital process is to provide life, a comfortable, safe, secured life for the people.
Got it. Also, I know we are slightly, going beyond our stipulated time frame, but I also want to understand very quickly. We missed that part. What is then? Okay, we understood Bimsaviya, we understood the deed system. What is this then? Jayabhumi and Swarna Bhumi and other titles, were they are like the same program with different political parties renaming it, or is it like different titles? Also, I want to, in the same line, I want to touch upon the customary laws that you mentioned, the Tesavalame Nitya, and I mean, how does it work at the same time? Because it's important, because people sometimes, those are the concerns that they have. How does it work?
Yeah, in fact, although I know some of the customary laws, but I am not an expert
land
to
expert, okay.
explain on this.
Right.
But the problem with these different land title programs, what happened was when the British ruled the country, they claimed that all the lands which you don't have specific rights belong to the government.
Okay.
Right? So they name it as crown lands. So they had the crown land ordinance. So all the lands they acquired from people. Actually, these lands belong to the people of this country.
Right.
But then these lands went into the hands of British. So they said it is crown land. And then various government schemes. So this, once we got the independence, we got these lands as government lands. And then also we had the 1970s, this nationalization program. So the land commissions, we acquired lands from those who have, because the handing over has not been done in a fair manner, because those who had access to the power, they had more land. And then to make a fair thing, so what we did the redistribution of lands. So whoever had more lands, we got the lands back to the government, and then we started different programs giving this land to the historical owners of the land, sometimes as new settlements. So when we want to have development programs, for example, Mahaveli Development Program, an accelerated Mahaveli Development Program, we irrigate the dry zone areas, and there were no people to do the cultivation. So we had to settle people in Polonnaru and Mahaveli system areas. We had to go and settle people. So we gave land ownership, land titles to these people, government lands, but now under different schemes, whether it is Sarnamurbi, Jayabhumi, whatever, we gave the ownership to the land, to the people. So they can cultivate, they claim the ownership, so they develop their lands, have proper cultivation, and contribute for the national agricultural production. That was the intention.
Right. And also, finally, again, this is a question for our Advocata insiders. Now, you have been in this field for a long time. I think, I'm sure the youngsters may also wanted to know how they can study a subject like this. Is it available in Sri Lanka? Because now things have changed. What are the degree programs that are available? What are the overseas opportunities that are available? What are the employment opportunities available? Could you kindly shed some light? You being a vice chancellor, you have been in multiple government committees, heading some very quite critical institutions.
Yes, in fact, I'll share my personal experience. When I started studying about this satellite technology, I started in 1985. Some of my teachers said, this is not a technology that you can have it in Sri Lanka. So are you planning to leave, or you are not going to make use of this technology?
With that, we'll come back to our normal conversation. Professor Ranjit Premaral, thank you so much for your time and for your insights. I think we had a very engaging and insightful conversation on Bimsaviya. I wish that we could have continued this conversation in Sinhala as well, but given the challenges, limitations on some of these technical terms are only available in English, we thought that we should continue this conversation in English. But we're looking forward to have another conversation in Sinhala, since now we have some familiarity with the terminology. Maybe we can interchangingly use some terms in English and continue this, because I think more and more people need to watch this and understand the challenges and the need for a land information system. And according to Professor Ranjit's recommendation, that we have to continue the Bimsaviya program, because otherwise we are always starting something. Already a lot of resources have been fielded, invested. So while that, we have to also move to a proper land information system, which is critical for economic development and also in moving forward on disaster management, so on and so forth, on multiple applications, and the principles remains the same. Don't forget to become an Advocata Insider. We have an early bird offer till 14th of October, which is 10,000 rupees for the entire year. Otherwise, it would be 12,000 rupees for the entire year. That is just less than or almost about 1,000 rupees per month. You will get all uninterrupted access for all our videos, and also there will be very special videos on the vehicle market as well as exchange rate and also the rest of the economic development. Professor Primrala, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this discussion.
And thank you for watching us. And as you know, we are available on all three languages. Advocata Plus is our single platform. Advocata Institute is our English platform. And we are also available in Tamil under Advocata Kural. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, TikTok. In any social media platform, we are available. And we'll see you with a similar conversation next week.